Hello and welcome to a new episode of our series Talk with a Scientist. I am Fawaji Nema, member of the Chemclubtlemcen and student in first year Master of Natural Products. Our guest for today is the winner of the second prize of the jury and the prize of the public at the same time in the final of my thesis in 180 seconds, Alsace in 2016. Welcome, Ziyad. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, would you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Ziyad Chaker. I'm a PhD in physics. I am Moroccan and I did my studies in France, mostly a bachelor, then a master degree in physics and engineering, then a master degree in more fundamental physics, and a final master degree in chemistry. And after that, I started a PhD in Strasbourg, in which I studied hybrid organic and inorganic materials by computational approaches. So since my formation is physics, I did that to understand first the adventure of research, but in the counterpart of that, there is a lot of science going on, interesting thing going on in the PhD. And post-PhD, we do a postdoc. So I did a postdoc in Paris in the Commissariat à l'énergie atomique, where we studied nuclear materials. And then in Japan, another postdoc for 1 year, in which I studied the reduction of CO2 in some specific conditions and their catalysis. And now I founded a company in which we are formulating medicines to bring them to the brain safely.
That's interesting. Why did you want to do a PhD? Were you planning to do it from the beginning, or the idea came after you finished your master's studies?
Yeah, the idea was always there because first of all, my father did also a PhD, which is something that introduced me to this world. Saying, I mean, the things that he was saying to me, it was that you have a lot of opportunity of doing research, you meet a lot of people, and you travel a lot. So, and also you stay in this academic network that you appreciate so much when you're in master, because you see a lot of subjects, you see a lot of experts in a lot of subjects, you find them interesting, and then you would like to deepen your knowledge in that. And that's precisely what you do in a PhD. And to be honest, it's the part of my life that I had the most freedom in, because you have 3 years where you have a contract, you have one subject of research, and you can enjoy yourself just doing that. So it's a pretty nice adventure, I would say.
Mm-hmm. In fact, you are a hybrid, as you said in the beginning. You are a physician and a chemist. Some people prefer to mix chemistry or to choose specialities where we find biology or medicine as chemistry of natural products or toxicology. Why did you choose specifically physics chemistry?
Tough question, because I always chose physics. That's the simple answer. I'm a physics fan and passionate, so I always wanted to do physics up to the highest possible level that we have today. But in terms of material study, because there is another physics about astrophysics, cosmology, which is also very interesting, but not precisely my subject. The idea was just that I know a lot of chemists, a lot of biologists, and a lot of physicists that's all interested in the same thing, how matter is functioning and how we can use these functions to do something in our everyday life. And the idea for me was try to understand if it's possible to go as deep as it can be. So use the computational approaches of quantum mechanics to be able to predict the material properties. And that's why I did a PhD, because the PhD is the occasion to go expert on one specific point. In my case, it was the study of hybrid organic and inorganic materials via computational approaches. So yeah, the reason why people choose one rather than two disciplines, or let's say biology except chemistry, is mostly passion. But technically speaking, all is the same. You don't choose you don't choose biology, chemistry, or physics really by choice. I mean, you are interested in a certain kind of mechanisms or subjects, and you need physics and you need chemistry and you need biology to understand them. And that's my point. Like now my company is about medicine. So basically we do mostly biology and physicochemistry, so-called physicochemistry. So after all the fields are joining together to be able to describe something. Then I know that there is some people that like becoming the experts of the world on some specific points, and this is also enjoyable for them. So being the only one that understands the subject, it's nice, but it's not my thing. Me, I like to share the understanding with other people. So it means making it more accessible, which means not going too deep into the problems that nobody has. Why a star is blue except of red. Yeah, it's an interesting physics problem, but for everyday life and for our friends and family, it's not really the.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If I remember good, your PhD took you 3 years and 1 month. Is it the classic period that you can take a PhD in France, or does it depend from university to another?
That's a good question, but that's an administration question. In fact, PhD in France, normally it should be 36 months. So normally it should be 3 years. But I was in some committees in which we were doing statistics on PhDs. So I know pretty well this subject, and I can tell you PhDs can go mostly from 32 months to 4 or 5 years if you have the financing. Like if your boss have the financing, you can go until 5 years, no problem. The thing is, the longer your PhD, the more difficult it becomes, because people expect more results, expect more advancements, expect a lot of things that are not necessarily easy to get, a lot of papers, publications. So the usual PhD in France is 3 years, but it can be extended for a while. For example, for me, I had 4 months postdoc after my PhD that were within the same lab, and just to find to have the time to find a postdoc. It's the idea.
Mm-hmm. And another question concerning the choice of the PhD subject. Was it by choice, or was there a possibility to propose a new one?
A student proposing a PhD project, it doesn't exist. I mean, it exists maybe 1/1 million that exist in the history, because I know some cases in history in which it existed, but usually the process is so complex. At least I'm speaking in France, because in other countries, for example, in England, it's slightly different. In Japan, it's completely different. But in France, it's like this, that you arrive at the end of your master and you have a lot of loops of decision for the PhD project. So you have, first of all, the nation, so the state that says, okay, I will finance 5 PhD theses in this area. You fight to get your financing for this PhD thesis, but the subject's not really you who choose it, but you choose it among five possibilities. There are other type of PhDs, for example, half with company, in which the company comes to a lab and says, listen, I have this problematic, it would be interesting to solve it, but we know that it will take time and that it's a research project, so we can finance half and you finance half of a student. And then the student comes if he's interested and has the expertise to do this PhD. So overall, I rarely saw somebody proposing, to be honest, I proposed my own project of PhD that was refused. And then I proposed the second one with an institute and was also refused. And then I got, I fight to get this PhD about hybrid materials, because the idea was like, you can propose a subject, but then to have it, your institute selected as being a good subject. And in addition, so that it's proposed for this competition, national competition for like scholarships, it's very difficult. I mean, it has to be something very innovative and whatever. So yeah, but if you have money, you can do PhD wherever you want on whatever subject you want. You know, in this world, it's like this. So.
Yeah, I see. And what about posting a scientific publication? Is it a condition for graduating with a PhD? Were you obliged to post your publication before you get graduated?
This is also a delicate subject because there are some fields, for example, in biology, you have one paper, you are the king of the world at the end of your PhD. In chemistry, you can publish much more. And in theory, I mean, let's say computational approaches, like I was doing, you have to have at least 1 or 2 papers in first author, and then some other papers in second, third, fourth author. So yeah, it's kind of necessary, but people are understanding, like if you arrive to your PhD presentation and you just submitted your paper, you submitted it, like you have a paper, but it's not yet published, they can be okay with it as long as you advanced enough for your PhD. In France, again in France, because in England, they can tell you, okay, sorry, not enough, come back next year. But the thing is, come back next year, you don't have money for living 1 year. So you have to fight to get a scholarship again for 1 year. So yeah, for that in France is quite nice. I mean.
What about in the lab? Where you were in the lab, were you allowed to run your own samples by yourself, or the presence of the technician is required? For example, if you use RMN or HPLC?
I mean, there are no, except if you are in specific labs. When I was in CEA, it's a high security lab and it's like very like controlled everything, so you cannot do whatever you want. But in general, you have an idea, you can test it. I mean, you have a sample and you know somebody who does HPLC and you want to go do HPLC, you go do HPLC. If your boss is not happy, you can even like have how to say, you know, when you are in PhD, you have something called the doctoral school that does the mediation between you and your supervisor if there is problems. So your supervisor don't want to have a problem with you and you don't want to have a problem with him, but it's in both sides. So in this sense, if you really want to do something, it's his interest to let you do it, because if you become frustrated, he will have problems also. So, which happens a lot. To be honest, it's a human adventure. It's a human adventure. You have an interaction between at least 2 humans, so you will have as much problems that you can have when you have interaction between 2 humans. But normally you can go to this lab, say, that's what I did in my PhD. I did measurements, even though I was just a theoretician. I did measurement of like band gap of some materials. We established some grids to make some electrical measurements, some characterizations with the transmission electron microscope. And I was not supposed to do that, but it was awesome. And I learned a lot of stuff, and it's, yeah, you can do whatever you want, to be honest. You know, you're a free person in PhD.
Talking about boss and all this stuff, what is your perception of the PhD student supervisor and co-supervisor relationship?
Well, first of all, if you have 2 supervisors, so a supervisor and a co-supervisor, it depends what are their status. It means like if one is a director of a university and the other one is a researcher in the lab, the one that is researcher in the lab will help you much more because he will be with you every day. I mean, this is a very, very common thing in PhD, that you realize that you see your boss 5 minutes per month, and that's painful because he's very busy and you would like to interact more. So sometimes it's better to have your PhD director that is not a very well-known person, because then you will have more of him, you know, so he will help you more. That's for sure. Then the relation in general between bosses and their students, as I said, is human relations. I mean, I was responsible of postdocs and PhDs in my lab, and I saw people stop their PhD because of bad relations with the supervisor. And I also saw people that became friends for life, you know, with their supervisor. So it's like everything is possible. It depends if you're an open, more or less open person, or if you're like a kind of rigid person, let's say.
Any advice for young people today? Do you think that everyone has to go through a PhD experience, or that it is a path that is not made for everyone? For example, there are someone who prefer to enter directly into the world of work, or to do internships and then build a personal project.
Tough question, because now I did the second possibility after doing the first one. I mean, the thing is like, if you know what you want to do in your life and not only what you are interested into in your life, it's two different things. Because if you are interested in something, you can follow it in research, in PhD, then in postdoc, then again in postdoc, and find somewhere in US or in Australia somebody that want to work on that and stay 5 years there. But this is in case you are interested into something, but we are all humans. Maybe you will want to have some partner, have kids, have whatever. It's like me with my wife now. I mean, you are a human. So at some moment, your life clashes with your interests. And you are like, okay, I need a position somewhere. I need stability. I need to be able to have some salary to live every month. So it's awesome to follow your academic passion, let's say, but it's very rare to get a position in academics. Let's be honest, in France, it's about 6 persons, let's say, on 500 or 600 people per year that will have a position. So getting a position is difficult, but the process of academic research is very, how to say, it's awesome. I mean, you have an idea, you have things you want to understand in the world, and you will have all the equipment and all the help necessary to do it. But then you have to realize that from a point of view of industry, you are a slave, because they are like, come on, this guy have a contract of 2 years. He's doing a job that honestly would deserve at least a position because it's a high level expertise. But he agreed to sign a contract for 2 years, give everything he knows what to do, and then go away, then try to find another job. So it's a middle way. I mean, me for now, I'm founding my own company with a colleague of mine, because we said, first of all, we collaborated since a long time, but the idea is like, we have scientific objectives. We want to understand this, but we want it to be useful for society, basically. Because like, you can do a lot of interesting stuff, but this will never be useful for society. I mean, studying H bond in a structure to understand how the piezoelectric coupling comes from ab initio calculations, which was my secret project for a long time, it doesn't help anybody for doing anything. It's just interesting in terms of how matter is working, how physics are working, how the inner machinery of matter is going on. And it can be useful someday, but nobody will come and tell you, oh, you're so awesome, man, so I will give you just some money so that you can live in peace and do your science. It doesn't exist, unfortunately. It's a jungle, this world. So so if you want to get something somewhere, you need to fight for it. And yeah, it's a choice. It's a personal choice for each
That's
person.
what I was going to say. It's about choices. It's all about choices.
Exactly. It's all about choices. That's totally true. Yeah.
So that was my last question. So Ziyad, it was a pleasure having you today. We want to thank you for honoring us with your presence. We wish you the best of luck in all of your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you to you too, and all the people around you too. I hope PhDs for them all.
Take care of yourself.
I wish PhDs to all people that want to do them, because it's a personal adventure, scientific adventure, and a mind adventure. I mean, you expand your mind, honestly. You stop being a person in a box. So for this, it's a very, very useful experience, in my opinion.
So thank you again. Take care of yourself, and hope to see you in another opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much.